You know, I have Steppin with Marcus J. We are back. Thank y'all, everybody, for listening to us tonight. Thank y'all, everybody that's listening to us on their smartphones and tablets and internet devices, at your computer, wherever you are listening to us on TuneIn. Thank you for hitting our website of legacyinternetradio.com. We appreciate that. Thank y'all, everybody that is listening to our replays on YouTube right now. We appreciate the love that we are getting. If you want to be a part of the discussion, call us at 804-402-2893. I just want to give some love to a couple of Ain't No Half Steppin' Marcus J listeners and participants. Big shout out to our sister Toyana's listening to us here in the capital city. We see you out there. Thank you. She's saying, "Hey fam." She's representing. She's representing for the divas. So she wanted to make sure that that you knew that she that she's listening. She also wanted to make sure that Broderick knew that she's listening as well. She's giggling. She's got a note here that says she's giggling. Of course, we got our brother K-Dub is listening to us right now down in the ATL. So what's up to my brother K-Dub? Thank you for listening to us, and tell the fam down there in the ATL that's visiting that I said what's up, and tell them I said hey boo. Inside joke. Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J. Live from the den, Legacy Internet Radio. Of course, we the flagship show here on Legacy Internet Radio. All right. Let's go ahead and get the elephant in the room out, just kind of out in the open. Talk about Bill Cosby. This whole segment that we're about to do is called "What the Hell," and so I don't even really know if I need to set this up. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock for the last week or two or however long it's been, then maybe you don't know what's going on with Bill Cosby. But unless you've been under a rock, then hey. But I don't think any of us have been under a rock. I think we've all been walking above the ground. So we're going to go around the room on this one. Big Joe, you up first, man. What you think? Dr. William Cosby is having some issues here. What's up, man? What's your thoughts?
I'm a little torn. Like, for me personally, I think that a lot of it could be a farce. I think that people wait until the ends of certain things in order to try to tear people down. Now, I'm not saying that it's not true because I wasn't there. I don't know. I can't prove yes or no. I don't like the way everybody is convicting him in the media. The media has totally taken something that could potentially be wrong and flipped it and made it into something so horrific, and he's already guilty in the minds of popular perception. Well,
who knows? David, what you think? Bill Cosby been accused of some really bad things. What you think?
I'm kind of along the lines also with you. Say your name again, please. It's so hard for me.
I'm the Dapper Don.
No, that's not what we said.
Big Brother Joe.
Big Brother Joe. Okay, my dad's name is Joseph, so I should remember
that's
that.
a good name.
Okay, Big Brother Joe. I will say I agree with you. I'm torn. I'm more leaning towards feeling suspicious about all of these people coming forward at one time, 30, 40 years after the supposed fact. I'm not saying that Bill Cosby is not guilty. However, I'm not saying he can't be innocent either. And all of these people are coming forward, for their own personal agenda, whether it be fame or money or to tell their story or whatever it is. I'm just like, why all of a sudden? I don't know what the sequence of events were. Did the comedian guy come out first, and then Bill Cosby says me? I'm not really sure like how that worked out.
As far as I know, that guy was the one that sparked this round. And I can't remember his name, but it was a comic who had in his act that Bill Cosby had been doing these things.
Right.
And he was saying it. I can't remember the guy's name, but from my understanding, it was that guy's comedy act that sparked this round of suspicion and this innuendo coming up with Bill Cosby.
And then Bill Cosby supposedly said, me. I don't know if that happened first or second, but
it was definitely after. Yeah.
It was after the fact. So, okay. So he was coming from the perception of, joking or mocking them picking on him. And, that was kind of stupid. I will say that, whether he's innocent or guilty, I think that was kind of dumb for him to say, meme me, because they did, and they got in on him. Like they tore him to shreds on Twitter, YouTube, all the everywhere, Facebook.
Just to set up with the meme me thing, he had on his website where he had pictures of himself, and he was allowing people to create the memes, which is the new craze where people see pictures and then they put their own comedic spin on what the picture is saying. So if I've got a picture with a funny face, then you'd say whatever it is you think that I would be thinking in that moment. So that's, for the listeners who are not familiar with what memes are, that's because I just learned. So I know if I just learned, then there's probably some folks
it's
that don't.
Those little tags.
Yeah,
and
little
you
tags.
See, like little Olivia from the Cosby Show, and she's shaking her little hand or whatever and says something cute. And I'm thinking that Bill Cosby is thinking, well, people will say something cute about me on these memes. No, they're ripping you to shreds, man, after all these allegations. So that was just crazy.
Roderick, what you think, man?
I'm gonna be a little bit controversial. I
we like
think
that here.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I think like Charisma, I think it's a little bit weird that you have so many people all coming out now. Why not then? But if he did do it, personally, I don't care, because I think that, you're talking about 40 years ago, in the 70s, no less. I mean, can you imagine some of the stuff that people were doing in the 70s and the types of parties they were having? And, you got Woodstock and all those kinds of things. This is 40 years ago in this man's life. And if you weren't willing to do something about it then, how can you persecute him? And I'm not saying how can you persecute him, but I personally am not going to want to persecute him now. You know what I mean? Because I look at, for me, you probably can line up a whole bunch of people for me from 10 years ago in my life, and they're probably, want to tell some stuff. But, for me, I just think that at that time, with the way that people partied and being a superstar with all the drugs and the alcohol and the different things that they did, I mean, that's probably where he was. And I think that for us, we bought into the brand of, he is the Mr. Dad kind of guy, America's family dad or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's a brand. That's what he sold in order to make his money.
Right.
What he was doing behind closed doors was probably something different. We saw that with Tiger Woods, and I could just go down the list. But we fall into that trap a lot more often than we should, based on what people are putting out there that are entertainers.
Right. I can dig it, man. I tend to agree with you. How about that? I tend to agree with you, because I said, and I took a little bit of heat social media this week when I said that, in my opinion, where there's smoke, there's probably some fire. When I look at the fact that he had in his act in the late 60s, and I heard the clip, and I don't have it here tonight. I wish I did, but there was a clip where he basically talks about how he was drugging chicks, and how they would wake up, kind of woozy. It was in his act in the 60s, and lo and behold, this is the story that a lot of these women are telling. And let me just dispel the Raven Simone rumor, because last week there was some rumor came out that she had said that he was doing some stuff to her. Let's be clear, she was 4, and from all of the people who are alleging that he had done something to them, none of them are 4. They're all women, older women, teenagers, and up. She came right out and dispelled those rumors, so that's one. But Michelle Hurd came out, and she was an actress on Law and Order. A lot of people remember her from the first season of Law and Order SVU, and she told a very, shall we say, difficult story about how when she was on the Cosby Show, she was a day player, which I believe is somebody that's uncredited that just kind of shows up near in the background scene type of stuff. And she told a story about how he would have her, he wanted her to come to his dressing room, and he would kind of stand over her and put his hands on her shoulders, and it made her kind of uncomfortable, and how he, would try to get her to drink stuff and she wouldn't do it, and how he asked her to come to the crib and take a shower at the crib so that she can straighten his hair. He can straighten her hair for the show, and she was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that," and she ended up not, leaving the show. And she was like, there's other people who did that did go and got their hair straight. These are people who you see them, but it ain't my story to tell, And so when I heard that one, I was just like, wow, it was not so much because she was an actress that I had heard of, but because that story was so personal. Some of the other stories just seemed to be a little bit more bland. And our sister Toyana just sent me a list of 18 women over and this is just, the other names that have come out. There are 18 names here of people who are alleging that he has had some misconduct with them. And so, I when you said Broderick just now about him selling a brand, I never really thought of it like that until now. I don't want to convict the guy. We all grew up with Bill Cosby, and I'll be honest with you, it's not going to taint my memory of the Cosby Show. It's not going to taint my memory of the show Cosby, which I'm one of the few people that actually like that show with Dougie Doug and, Krista Kima, whatever her name was, and that came after the Cosby Show, and Fat Albert and the original show, the original Bill Cosby, all his stuff. I'm not... if it comes out that he did this, then hey, he did it, and he needs to go away until he take that long nap. But it's just it's curious to me that these people are coming out now. But Diva, actually, I want as a woman to kind of put a little perspective here. My opinion, and I took some heat from some sisters when I said that. It don't matter how long it's been. If something happened to you, you reserve the right to say something when you're ready. To that, you say what? Because I took some heat for having that opinion, and I got taken to task by sisters that said, "Oh, they just want their 15 minutes."
I agree. There should not be a time limit or a statute of limitations. However, know that the longer it takes you to say something, the more guilty it's going to make you look like you're lying. Just know that. Nobody's going to believe you, even if it did happen.
But once again, we'll go back to popular perception. Perception has murdered this. I mean, I'm sitting here looking now, and I'm pulling up some of the people that I know well. And Carla Ferrigno, Lou Ferrigno's wife, accused him. Lou Ferrigno.
I think Lou Ferrigno could beat up Bill.
Yeah,
If you
Are you
Incredible
serious?
Hulk, really?
Yeah, the Incredible Hulk.
Come on now.
Louisa Moritz. She used to be on. She was one of. Oh, I can't remember. I know what show she was on.
I don't know who that is.
But I mean, just a lot of different
Janice
names.
Dickerson.
Oh, she doesn't count, man. Don't nobody want her. Seriously.
Oh man.
But the other dude, the guy, I think I found his name, Burris. That was the comedian who sparked it.
That kind of outed him, yeah.
Who got that album. And it was really crazy because he did that set in Philly.
Yeah.
In Bill's hometown.
Yeah, that's how
I got to agree with the diva. Number one, like you said, why does everybody get on this bandwagon now? If it happened in 60, one of the earliest ones was in 1969. It was 68, but then I was just reading in 69. That 69, let me see. Hold on, I'm going to get my fingers and toes off a minute. 79, 89, 99, 2000, 40 years.
45.
40 plus years, and now you want to say that somebody did something to you?
And not only that, I mean, a lot of it seems to be malicious. Right. We're talking about the women that are coming out with these things. They all seem to be or have come across as intelligent people. So you should know that.
Except for Janice.
Except for Janice, yeah.
But if somebody invites you to their house to take a shower and straighten their hair, I mean, come on now. Some level of intelligence should tell you something ain't right about that, but yet you went.
Well, I'm sorry, brother.
If I can, one woman that I was reading about in that whole list that they did, she said that even after she woke up and it was clear that they had had sex, she slept with him again. Yeah. So I'm curious about that, because if you're alleging that somebody raped you or even was simply inappropriate, but then you engaged in activities with them again, that takes away your credibility when you bring the story. And again, I'm not saying any of this is right, but I'm just talking about the manner in which it's being brought to the forefront now. It just seems malicious to me.
And I just really want to know, like, what is the motive of the women coming forward now?
Right.
Like, what are they trying to achieve? Can they bring forth criminal charges?
I'm pretty
Is
sure
it
the
too
statute
late?
of limitations has expired. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. Are they just trying
Couple
to
times.
feel
Yeah.
better? Like, I want to get inside the heads of them. Why now? What are you gaining from bringing this to the public?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know, but I tell you this. I said last week, when the story was really breaking, I ended the show, my rant last week, talking about this, and the thing that I said, and I feel very strongly about this, is I need him to open his mouth. I need him to say
Yeah, he
something.
needs
But
Say
why?
Why? Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because if look at it like this, if somebody accused you guys of the worst possible thing, it's well, let me backtrack that, because it's different with us because we're not in the public eye. But I don't know that I would want the public's opinion to drive this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would prefer for my denial, my
agree with Marcus.
But that's dead now, though.
my vehement
Yes.
denials to drive this.
But-
the fact that he is so steadfast about his silence, and it just, to me it looks guilty for him to not say. Because if somebody said, Marcus J, I heard you was raping girls, I would say, oh, hell no.
But here's the problem with that. Right now, to you, it just looks guilty. If he opened up his mouth, he could end
turn
up being
into guilty.
Right, I understand.
So,
I got
just-
you on that,
you know,
but, and
Well, my thing is,
that
he
harkens
has-
back. But that harkens back to Diva, when I said where there's smoke, there's got to be some fire.
And
Because
my-
if he was so innocent, he wouldn't have no problem, Diva.
My thing is, he has nothing to lose at this point. Even whether he's guilty or innocent, he has nothing to lose to come forward, because they have crucified him.
Yes.
He has everything.
He has nothing to lose.
Because right now, all
he ain't
of
going
these,
to jail.
But all of this right now is simply allegations. That's all it is. And so whether his image, his reputation at this point is simply in question. If that brother opened his mouth and happened to say the wrong thing, that's now going to be available for public scrutiny. I mean,
Right.
they're going to pick apart
They already
let me
doing it.
let me
he
ask you this.
says.
Let me ask you this, Broderick. Does your stance on that change if you knew for a absolute fact that he was innocent of all of these charges? Absolutely innocent. He did not do any of this. Would you have the same opinion,
Yes.
Joe?
If I knew he was guilty,
If you knew for
You
an
mean like
absolute,
OJ?
if you knew,
he OJ guilty.
no, seriously, 100% innocent of all of these charges, would you still feel like he should not open his mouth?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
I disagree with that.
And here's my thing. I think this is one of those things to where there are going to be areas or shades of gray in there.
Okay.
I don't think he's 100% innocent, but I don't think he is as monstrous as he's being portrayed to be. And so at the end of the day, when he starts putting words to either validate or
Invalidate, yeah.
any of it, because if he says something that don't even sound right to somebody,
You cover
now
it.
they can say, well, when she said this, now he said that, and you start putting pieces together.
Yep.
Now you're building a case against his brother. I mean,
Right.
and at this
That's
point,
why they say anything
it's-
you say
it's
can
only-
be used against you.
Yeah, it's only
That's why
public
cops can
perception.
lie to you.
Yeah.
To get you
But
to
we
say stuff.
already said he ain't going to jail. So
Well,
What-
no,
what he
no,
got to
but
lose?
think about what he said. No, if we start putting those pieces, if we start linking that timeline together, and those things do happen, he can go to jail. Now, don't get it twisted, because it's other things besides just the
I'd like
allegations
somebody to do
of
some
rape.
research on that.
Yeah, I would need
Do
to know
that.
about the statute of limitations on that. I think
I'm-
he
And
is
his
far
lawyers
beyond.
have probably told him.
My
Yeah.
guess is, depending on what the most recent charges, I mean, I don't know what the statute of limitation is on sexual assault. My guess is it may even vary from state to state.
But watch this, Marcus J. It doesn't even have to do with criminal anymore. Civil law
Oh, yeah.
takes effect.
That's what they
over
try to
so,
do.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
civil
Yeah.
law.
Get
Oh, yeah.
money.
So now we're talking about money.
Now we
That's-
talking about money. His
that's way
estate.
greater than my reputation.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Because at this stage, he's 77 years old and he's paid, so he don't care nothing about the reputation going down or whatever.
He
You
wants
start hitting him
protecting
in
his
his
money.
wallet.
Yeah.
And taking away
That's a
from
whole new
what's his
story.
wife's name?
Camille and the girls. You know, they had a guy on. I can't remember his name, but it was an old guy who worked for him when he was at NBC doing the Cosby Show in the '80s. Said that he had a budget. He literally had a budget of hush money to pay these people when this stuff came up in the '80s. It's like, this ain't new. And his family, he's like 90 years old now. He was on the New York Daily News. Actually interviewed him over the weekend, and his family corroborated his story by saying that, yeah, he's been telling us this for years. It's just coming out now because these women are coming out. And so, you know, when you hear stuff like that, I mean, you could formulate your own opinion, folks. I mean, I don't know that it's wise to cast aspersions that way against somebody who you don't have any kind of proof one way or the other. But we all are potential jurors in our own mind, not real literal jurors. I'm not saying that, but we all kind of listening to the information that we have, and we make our own opinions. And based upon that, you know, that is what the court of public opinion is all about. And my personal opinion, it just doesn't look good for Dr. Huxtable here. It just doesn't. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. I want to go ahead and introduce, joining us right now, my co-host of this show, Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. I got my sister, S.Y. Butler. What's up, baby?
Hi, babe.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so good to see you.
I missed you.
Miss you too, man. I haven't fought with you in a long time.
You want to make up?
Yeah, we got to make up.
Okay.
For the end of the night, we're going to have
We
to
will make
figure
up.
something to argue about. Is that okay with you?
That's perfect.
Wonderful.
I see
Wonderful.
lots of lovely faces.
Yes, you see everybody. Everybody,
Yeah.
the usual suspects are here, and a new suspect has joined us
Yeah,
in
I see.
studio.
He was waiting on that invite.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because I got fussed at. I was like, I forgot. I gotta get you in here. I gotta get you in. And whatnot. So it's good to see you. And we getting into a whole lot of what the hell. And of course, we're going to finish up with some Diva Diaries in a little while. So we are definitely glad you're here and join in the fun. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den. Legacy Internet Radio, 804-402-2893 is the number to dial to be part of the show tonight. Of course, you want to hit us up in social media, feel free to do so. Thank you, everybody that's listening to us live on TuneIn and the replays on YouTube. Big Bro Joe, we know that you have some roots in our nation's capital, and over the weekend, the nation's capital as well as the world has lost a giant in politics, has lost a giant in civil rights, humanitarian. We lost Mayor for Life, Marion Barry, over the weekend. Any thoughts about that, man?
Hey, you know, I'm like you said, you know, I got roots up in the DC area, so it's a kind of bitter pill to swallow sometimes. You know, you look at people, everybody have made mistakes, but you know, do those mistakes, do the good you've done outweigh your mistakes?
Right.
And I'm just rest in peace, brother.
Right. Roderick, what you think, man? Mayor for Life, Marion Barry, we lost him over the weekend.
Absolutely. And I mean, and that was a sad occasion. And I think that, you know, again, when we were talking about that brand, that public perception, at the end of the day, that man did some great things for the public. Whatever may have happened in private were his own personal demons. But what he did for the public, the city, and for us as a people as a whole was great. And that's all I see, you know, when I look at that. So,
David, what you think?
Well, my first thought when I saw on Facebook, it was very disrespectful, the headlines, and you know what the headlines were. And, you know, I feel like no matter what you've done, I mean, do you have to go away from here like that? You know, I think it's just disrespectful the way they sent him off.
Well, I think that we would be, and I agree with you 100%, and that's the reason why I brought it up. I think that we would be doing a disservice if we didn't speak on what you're alluding to when you say the disrespect. I won't say the name of the entertainment website. I think we all know who those 3-letter initials are. But they had a headline that said, Marion Barry, crack mayor, dead at 78. Now, I read that. It's disrespectful, but I read that because I wanted to bring to the floor, to the listeners and to the crew, your thoughts on how a person's legacy, and we're big on that word here, legacy in that radio, but a person's legacy is kind of viewed once they're not here anymore. You know, I think Joe mentioned, I think it was Joe, it was either Joe or Broderick, that said that your positive contributions should outweigh what it is, your demons. And so for a person that was elected as a mayor 4 times in the same town, at least one that I know of, after his demons were made public twice. Joe's reminded me twice.
And he was an alderman.
And he was an alderman and a congressman. I think he was most recently a congressman. So for you to have several elected offices, you be elected to office several times after your transgression, and for the news media to reduce you to the worst moment probably of your life, I think is just about as egregious an offense as I think I've ever seen. There was a petition that I saw. I mean, the guy died just after midnight Sunday morning, and when I saw it Sunday morning around 8, 9 o'clock, the petition was already out, and I signed it, that said that they wanted to have that website take it down. Now, sign a petition. I realize that these people don't care about nobody signing a petition. I understand that. I don't. I'm not under any illusions here, but I do want to talk about how we demonize people sometimes with regards to that kind of thing. So I know I kind of went on a little bit of a rant, but Broderick, jump in here. Give us a little bit of give us a little levity here. What you think, man?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, again, it's about the job that he did for the people that he served. And so, you know, I think people are always too quick to judge others. You know, each of us have jobs that we go to, and those people pay us for what we do. And, you know, they can tell you all day, you do a good job, you're great here, you know, at the company, and this, that, and the other. But then they don't know about the things that happen when you go home and you're inside of your own 4 walls. What they pay you for is what you do when you show up to do your job. And so, you know, we have these leaders in our community, public figures, even celebrities to an extent. They show up and they do a job, and we applaud them for that. You know, what happens in their personal lives when they go home, that's not the extent of why they are where they are, you know. So you can look back as far as probably even farther than that, but I'll take John F. Kennedy for an example. This man is really lauded as one of our greater presidents, but he had his own stuff. You know, there were the rumors of Marilyn Monroe and all this other kind of stuff, but when he died, it wasn't Marilyn's boy toy or whatever passed away. This was President John F. Kennedy that passed. And so for me, I think that Mayor Barry deserved that same respect. Never mind the mishaps he had in his personal life. This man did a great service for the community, and as far as I'm concerned, to the country, and that's the way he should be viewed.
Joe?
I'm getting warmer and warmer sitting over here thinking about it, because and that was a great analogy that you used, Broderick. I mean, I feel that just the manner of disrespect that we, and I'm gonna say we as a people, still take, and that's probably more hurtful than anything. I mean, if you go to the inner cities in DC, Southeast DC, Northwest DC, it's rough. And to still do some of the things you did, he had a disease, he had an affliction, he did some, but then he turned around and did such great things. And even though who re-elected him time after time after time, because I'll go back to what my mother would always say, he who live in a glass house
Cast the first stone.
cast the first stone.
I
got to put my hands in my pocket. I can't throw no rocks. Really, and it's just it ticks me off, because You want to think about a guy who was genuinely a good person, who has some issues, but who of us in this room doesn't?
It reminds me of the article it reminds me of the article that we did a while ago where we talked about how white suspects were portrayed in the media versus how black victims were portrayed in the media, and the verbiage that is used. And oftentimes you get into these discussions with folks, and you don't want to make everything about black and white and all that kind of, everything ain't about race and all of that kind of stuff. But when you pay attention to, I guess, the code words and the subtle digs that you sometimes get, unless you're directly affected, then you don't see it. And oftentimes I think the lack of melanin comes with a level of privilege that you don't even realize that you have. And so when we talk to you about 20 black men getting killed by police in the street, and you say things like, and I'm leading into our next article here as I kind of tease that, and you say things like, well, if you wasn't in the street shooting each other, then you wouldn't have such a high police presence there. It just infuriates me. And again, I'm going into our next story, and I'm stuttering here because I am very heated right now as I'm sitting here thinking about it. Mayor Giuliani, he said white officers wouldn't be there if y'all wasn't in there killing each other. And I'm getting this from the Washington Post. It's on the AP. It ain't just there. It's all over. He got into it with Michael Eric Dyson yesterday on NBC's Meet the Press. And he dropped the number 93% of blacks are killed by other blacks. And while that may be an accurate number, I also saw a similar number that said 84% of whites are killed by whites. And, I'm not great at math. I've never been great at math, but I know that they outnumber us by triple. And so I would think that if they outnumber us by triple, then that's probably a similar number, even though on the surface 84 and 93 is a big difference. It doesn't appear, in my opinion, to be that much of a difference. And again, I think that's the lack of melanin that comes with a certain level of privilege that you miss. You completely miss. So, Broderick, give me your opinion on that. What do you think, man? Am I tripping by thinking that Giuliani is tripping?
You're not tripping. And you're definitely right about the math. 84% of their population far outnumbers 93% of ours.
Yes.
We can do that all day, every day.
Yes.
But the fact that he had the audacity to say that on national television is what just kind of tripped me out. Because I think a lot of times we all know that people think certain things and it's kind of running in the back of your mind. But for this man to come on national television and to make that statement, it's troubling. I mean, it goes beyond insensitive. It goes just to so many different levels of what's wrong at the core of our country when it comes to racism and socialism and all that kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't think you're tripping at all. I think that's a problem, and I think that if anybody's going to be held accountable for something, now let's see if he gets held accountable for that.
Nah, Roger, you can forget it. He's not going to be held accountable for it. Look at where Giuliani is in his stage. He's old. He's white. He feels now that he doesn't have to play the game anymore because guaranteed when September 9/11, when all this went down, he would never have said that. It would have never came out of his mouth because he was playing politics at the time. But you know what? Sooner or later, the devil will come to the surface. And I didn't mean that in a negative connotation, but I meant that, period. It's going to come out. Sooner or later, you're going to catch yourself slipping and your mind going to get a little, what is the word for it? Deteriorated. And you're going to slip up and say what you really feel. And he did. That's what he did. And I need somebody, like you said, to come out and be like, you know what? Why don't you sit your ass down? Excuse me. But that's what it is. Because it was wrong. It was dead wrong.
Dave, I want you to address a comment that came up in that conversation, and we'll debate this one because we've had this discussion, you and I and the whole crew. But I want you to address something that Guiliani said. He said, "What about the poor black child that was killed by another black child? Why aren't you protesting that? Why don't you cut it down so that so many white officers don't have to be in black areas?" End quote. That's what Guiliani said to Dyson. When you hear a comment like that coming from a white politician, what does it make you feel?
I don't know. I'm kind of like, yeah, he's wrong for saying that, but I'm kind of like, in a way, he's right, because we need to clean up our neighborhoods. We need to do better so that this negative perception of us, is not out there.
Right.
So that the victim is not seen as the perpetrator. So, it's not so much police presence because we got it together. We're taking care of our own. So, of course he was very insensitive for saying what he did, but is he wrong? I don't know. I mean, we do need to get ourselves together as a community.
I guess
we do.
I guess when I think about that comment, I think about Ferguson. I think about Ferguson, Missouri, which we're still awaiting the decision on whether the grand jury is going to indict police officer, soon to be former police officer Darren Wilson, in the murder of Mike Brown. That town is overwhelmingly blacks, like 70 or 80%, whatever the number is. I don't know what the number is, but it's high. It's like 50, it's like 70, 80%. But it's like 50 something police officers and 3 of them are black.
Right.
And so that begs the question, why do we have such a disparity? So when I hear Guiliani make a statement like that, it makes me wonder, do we make the effort to police the neighborhoods in the same demographic as to the neighborhood? I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but if you got 70% white and 20% black and 10% Hispanic, should it not be that the police department and the fire department and all of the civic departments have some sort of resemblance to those percentages? I mean, am I off here? I mean, so when I hear a statement like that, it's very insensitive to speak to what you just said. In this other comment, Michael Eric Dyson says to him, black people who kill black people go to jail. White people who are policemen who kill black people do not go to jail.
Right.
And I think that might have been, I see Broderick, you grinning at me. Yeah, what you saying?
Yeah, that hit it on the head because, again, we're not saying that he's not right in his comment. The numbers are the numbers. They will just never lie. But at the same time, what we're looking at is the outcome of when travesties like this happen. And so I think we're seeing far too often to where, this is happening against, the black American, and the people that are committing the crimes are pretty much getting a slap on the hand. They get dismissed from the police force or might do some probation or some sort of light sentence to where he's right. When we do it amongst our own community, our brothers and sisters are getting life and 20-year sentences and stuff like that. So, that's my issue with it. I mean, that comment hit it right on the head.
Joe, let me ask you, Joe. I know you want to get ready to say something.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question. You make your comment, but then I'm going to come right back to you because I want to ask you a question.
I got a call on the carpet when you made this statement, though, Broderick, that the numbers are the numbers. But see, once again, where are the numbers coming from? Who's reporting those numbers? I mean, you know what? People make up numbers every day. Yeah, 1 and 1 still equal 2. But it just depends on whatever who's gathering that information in order to make it plausible for what you say. I think it was insensitive, and I agree with you all to a certain point. Like I said, I just feel some kind of way because, to Marcus's point, I don't think you can you have to be fair all the way around, and I guess fair is a bad word to use. I guess that's a curse word even in and of itself. Fair. What is fair?
Yeah, it's where you judge pigs. That's what fair
exactly.
is. I understand where Broderick's going, though, because at the end of the day, if you have crime statistics and you have numbers, the numbers bear out, or at least the assumption is, and we know what happens when you assume, but when you have the statistics, all you can go by is what you have.
Well, I mean, let's just go back to a fictional show. Let's look at The Wire. Everybody used to watch The Wire, right? We used to let them sit there and get their brainstorming sessions on, and they would come up with these numbers. And it happens. It happens today, folks. It happens in everything that we do. We look at our local. I mean, when we look at our federal government, we as a soldier, I knew that certain things were going on that you all didn't know about because y'all was sitting here and I was sitting across that water ducking bullets. Me and Saddam boys sitting there looking at each other like, look, if you stay in your foxhole, I'm going to stay over here in mine. But there was a perception of things going on that we don't understand and see.
That wasn't like that, yeah.
But I think when I was talking about the numbers being the numbers, that's the point, kind of back to the point that Marcus made, that, you know, while you're saying that 93% of black murders are by black people, at the same time, 84% of white murders are by white people. And I'm sure if you looked at the Asian community, the Latino community, or whatever, because most people have a tendency to flock together within their own cultural environment.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
And so they're going to be doing things, committing crimes against each other because they're in close proximity. So the statement he made, no matter how those numbers pan out, that's going to be true. And that's fine to say that, but the insensitivity behind it and the justice that comes after the fact is the issue that I have with it.
I got you. And it's disingenuous to even say it like that. And I agree with you 100%, because the point that you just made is a point that I've always made. You know, I used to get into it with Big Rube and Carlton Banks all the time when we talked about stuff like this, because I would always say that you're going to kill folk where you at. You're going to rob folk where you at. You're not going to go cross the tracks just to rob somebody when you can rob the dude that's right next to you. You know what I'm saying? So the question, I'm going to ask you one more question, Joe, and then we're going to get out of the segment. But the question I was going to ask, and I'm going to send this around the room, is he does make a good point. Guiliani does. I agree with this point because I've seen us do it. We don't protest in the street when Joe kills Marcus or Marcus kills Broderick, but we do get up in arms when Officer Joe kills Broderick or Officer Marcus kills Charisma or whatever. Why do we go and get a T-shirt and keep it moving, but then we show up in the streets when? And I have my opinions on this. I want yours for the listeners.
Well, for me, it's simple. If it's a genuine situation, you got folks who going to sit there and they're media hungry and they're trying to make points just because they can make a point. I'm a firm believer that a lot of stuff that's going to go down, if it goes down in Ferguson, is not going to be those folks in Ferguson. It's going to be those outside influences who just want to continue to keep the nonsense rolling.
Right.
That's what I see. I don't think people do a lot of damage to themselves a lot of times. It's those outside influences, people that come in, they get shipped in. Look at what in the first situation down in Ferguson where it was some cats from Jersey, I think it was. You know, them your people, Marcus. I can't. But
yeah, it wasn't South DC, huh?
yeah, no, it won't us. But I mean, you know, think about a lot of stuff that gets, it's little pockets of groups.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people are still hurting.
Right.
And they're trying to get over that hurt. And they want that hurt to go away.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of them want to manifest that in a negative and evil light. But you have some militant factions, groups, segments, 2 or 3, you know, the rotten apple spoil the whole bunch thing. Yeah.
Diva, I saw you kind of nodding your head affirmatively when I was setting that up. When you see us in the streets, when, you know, Trayvon Martin was killed, and you see us in the streets, Mike Brown gets killed. But, you know, we had just here in Richmond in the last 48 hours, I know of at least four kids that got killed just in the last 48 hours. Just over the weekend, I know of at least 4 because I saw them on the news.
Right.
And I know about it because I watched the news. But I'd be willing to bet with all the people in this room right now, everybody didn't know it, but everybody knows about Ferguson.
Right.
And so what's the deal? What's your opinion on why we wild out when it's white on black, but we cower when it's black on black?
Well, I saw one story with a little boy that was shot in the neck, they said, on Facebook. And it was more condolences, you know, sad, sorry that happened type of thing. But you're right. If, you know, a white person were to perpetrate something against a black person, it becomes, you know, that's the man, and we got to fight against the man, like it represents all of the race.
Right.
And so, we are, according to the numbers, our biggest perpetrators.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We are perpetrating against ourselves. When are we going to make a stand against that?
Right.
When are we going to say enough violence against our families and, our people? When are we going to say enough is enough for that?
Right.
That's okay. It's okay to shoot
Right.
your next door neighbor that's black, but outside person, that happens to be white, he's racist. He's trying to kill all of us. We got to protest. We got to, go to the streets and all of that.
I think it's desensitized. I think we're desensitized to
Very
us
desensitized.
doing it to each other, and I think a lot of it has to do with the brainwashing, because you have a lot of pseudo revolutionaries who are. They are training themselves to think that all white people are wrong and all black people are right. So when they see certain things go white against black, they want to fight. Shouldn't went down. Let's go fight. But when it's black,
Fight the power.
Yeah, fight power. But when it's black, it's like, man, he must have been doing something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, so. I mean, I just don't understand the brainwashing part of it, the brainwashing aspect of it, how you just can't see, that's just the way I look at it. Broderick, what you think, man?
For me, I guess the answer to the question of why we get so riled up is kind of two-part. The first part is when it comes to the police officers. To me, that's an issue of the responsibility of authority. These are police officers. Their job, as the quote goes, is to protect and serve. You're not protecting anything and you're not serving anything if you killing the people that you're supposed to be protecting and to be serving. So I think that's a joke in and of itself. That's why you get riled up, because if I'm living in my home, in my community, and I'm trusting you to make sure that law and order prevails here, and next thing I know, you shoot my babies,
Right.
That's a problem. And we only see that happen when it's white against black. The second part of that is I go back to the outcome. It just seems like justice is never truly being served when it's that particular situation. Case in point, there's and I forgive me, I haven't followed the story enough to know all the names, but there's a brother that was murdering some young ladies on some college campuses here in the area, and they were white women, I believe, or whatever. That brother's going to jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah,
He's in jail now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So why are we having a conversation that we got police officers and we're waiting to see if they even going to be indicted for killing the black man?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right,
it's
right.
it's
That's
the it's the
definitely,
outcome.
yeah.
That's why you get the outrage, because it's not fair. It's not just that.
Ooh,
It
he
ain't none
just
of that.
cursed again.
So yeah,
Fair.
That's what causes people to get so excited about that, because you're not playing fair. That's not the same thing on both sides of the boat.
I can dig it.
So when you see any white person kill a black person and they get to walk from that, that's not cool.
Yes,
Those
sir.
4 black kids you said got killed here in Richmond over the weekend or whatever, I'm sure there's somebody sitting somewhere in a jail cell that's waiting on arraignment or whatever the case may be to pay the price for that.
Right.
But when we look at these scenarios, that's not the case for these people that's committing these crimes, and that's where the problem comes in.
Well, I'm glad you articulated it far better than I did, because I was babbling and stumbling over more. Sometimes I get so frustrated sometimes, and my brain is going a million miles an hour. I have a hard time even articulating it, because it frustrates me so bad when I see these things happen, and it just doesn't seem like anybody cares. You know what I mean? Like, we have these discussions, and people who are on our that not necessarily agree with us, but have a certain level of consciousness where they don't shy away from the discussion, and they don't have a defeatist attitude about it, and they still feel that there's certain things that can be done with it. Folks like that, it's like, word. But then you hear folks say, well, there's nothing can be done, and it's like, man, if they felt if they really felt that way, if like Medgar Evers felt like there's nothing can be done, or Martin Luther King or Malcolm, if these people, if those generations felt like nothing can be done, then where would we be even now?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I get so frustrated. That's just why I get so frustrated.
But just to give you a quick thing, this is the reason why white people tripped out when OJ got off.
Yeah.
Because for once, they felt what we feel all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was what I saw. They did something, I think maybe the anniversary of that was not too long ago. And they were showing, matter of fact, it was on Facebook. It was a brother that said, I had no idea how important the OJ verdict was. And they did a little video. And they were showing, white people literally flipping out, boo-hooing and crying.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, it was crazy. But for the first time in recent history, they felt how we feel all the time, because that's exactly what we see.
I could tell you two quick stories about that. I remember that day very clearly. I was a senior in college at Virginia Union University, and I remember being home for lunch that day. And when the verdict came down, I didn't care about OJ. I mean, I wasn't an OJ guy even before that. I was pissed at OJ because the white Bronco was during the NBA Finals and the Knicks hadn't been there. You know what I mean? Like, that's my connection to OJ. And so the day when the acquittal came down, my natural instinct was to be excited and happy. I didn't file a case, didn't care. My natural instinct was to be excited. And I remember driving to school, and I remember, black folks didn't even know each other, was honking horns at each other like, yo, did you hear OJ got off? Yeah. And that's one story. And the other story was an elder of mine. I won't say who because I haven't got permission to tell the story, but it was an elder of mine who worked in a management position with black people and white people, and they were all in the office. And this person told me that when the verdict came down, all the black people cheered instinctively, just like I had, and all the white people immediately were just upset and cussing and sobbing and and this person told me it was one of the rare times that this person felt a divide in an office that had been very close. People in mixed races have been very close, and they felt the divide that day. It was because of the OJ verdict. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk some more. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes.